Okay, so this is what we're going to look at today. Herbert Puchta's chapter on teaching English to young learners.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
So first of all, I've got some, this is where I come from. So this is here. This is Scotland here. And this is Stirling, which is the town, the city where I work and where my university is. So this is all mountains and lakes. It's very beautiful, but not many people live there. And then this is the university. This is the castle here. And this is our own university's castle here. And our university's lake. So the campus is quite small, but it's very beautiful. And we have lovely views of the different places in Stirling. So this is where I am. So I thought I'd just tell you about it a little bit. Okay, so what I would like you to discuss in your class is whether you think these statements are true or false or somewhere in between. Okay, so I'll give you some time to discuss those, and then when you're ready, tell me, and you can come to the microphone and speak to me. Okay?
Yeah. No, the first one.
Okay.
Children are false. False. But not pure grammar. ما بيكون pure grammar. بنعمل modeling, imitation. لكن ما بالضبط. فيش rules. Just modeling.
Children don't like
Repeating,
grammar.
drilling. Yes. No, why not? Yes.
They don't like grammar.
They don't
like grammar.
If it's in the context. يعني سنين عدد خامس سنة درس الجرامر ما أحلى قديش نبص سياق دراما في جنبه حكوا جرامر غير ما يحسوا. بس in general.
They don't rely on that.
إذا كان الجرامر كجرامر pure in between.
Drilling is a good way to practice.
I think it's in between.
Learning grammar is the next process.
No. لازم تكون very organized. very and logical. Related to our
learning is an important part of the grammar learning.
What do you mean by rote learning exactly? What's that rote learning?
rote يعني representation.
ممكن الدوران هاي.
Ask her, what do you mean by rote?
Ask her. Sorry, what do you mean by rote learning?
Learn by heart.
Learn by heart.
Memorize. To memorize.
No. In between. No.
For kids, they can understand.
Practice. Grammar is a practice.
But well, learning is about, teaching things individually. They are not connected with each other. You are teaching isolated items of grammar or vocab. They are not related to what they have learned before, or they are not introduced with the prerequisites.
Sometimes it's needed.
No, it's completely false.
Sometimes it's needed.
Yeah, it's not true.
Not true, not false, in between.
No, it's not true at all.
Memorizing. Sometimes
Okay.
It's about teaching things individually.
For example,
Yeah,
verbs. Irregular verbs.
drilling, they can memorize them.
Okay, إذا في drilling يؤدي للممارسة. In between.
Is it good to to teach things, or for example, to give them, for example, the past tense of this verb isolatedly without giving context? This is rote learning.
Okay.
Learning is teaching things individually, isolated items.
That's
They're not connected. Yeah, this is rote learning.
according to your
This is
yes,
rote learning.
according to your version, it's بالضبط. live and learn. هي قالت memorize.
Memorization.
قالت memorize.
It's mainly like we learn
something.
at our like
According to your version, it's قالت you. According to your version, it's between. It depends. It depends. Syllable. Okay, لازم understand الكلمة عمليا. Okay, yes, let's. According to Mr. Ala, it's 5.
So, Aman,
First one, what did we say about first one? Children up to 8, 9 can't learn grammar.
So yeah, what do you think of that? What do you think of the first one?
I think it is false.
It's false.
Why?
Even younger students need to learn grammar because this would help them to express themselves better. It would help them to write, even if it is simple sentences. It will help them to write correctly. We're not talking about grammar of upper, advanced grammar. No, we're talking about simple things they need to write, things they need to speak. That's it.
They can use it in the context spontaneously.
Yeah.
Not pure grammar. No rules. Just examples. Just context.
learning grammar
Automatically, spontaneously, something like that.
Okay, so you know, grammar is everything, isn't it? In language, there's basically there's grammar, there's vocabulary, there's discourse, and that's basically it. So you have to, in terms of output, so that's you have to put those things together. So as soon as children start learning anything, they're learning grammar. It's more the case about how you teach it. And
even the student say I'm happy or my name is Susan. This is grammar.
Yes.
yeah, even if the child says, well, I like running, there's lots of grammar in that phrase, I like running. So children are learning grammar all the time, but maybe not as we're not teaching it in a very explicit way. We're teaching it more in an implicit way. So we're not teaching rules so much as use with this age group. Because up to this age group, I think it's very difficult for children's brains aren't as developed as adults' brains, and so they can't reason, and they can't use their cognitive skills as they're not as developed. So as soon as we start talking about rules, it's much more difficult for these children of this age to learn. But it doesn't mean they can't learn grammar.
Yeah, they can. Yeah. But it's not rule governed. I mean, language.
Yeah. Well, language is rule governed, but children don't need to know the rules, maybe.
Learn it. I mean, implicitly, as you said.
What about the second one? Children don't like grammar, in your experiences?
Yeah, I think
Sure.
that's true.
Why?
Or it depends on the children or students. Low achievers. Yes, the way how low achievers don't like.
They use grammar, but they are
Just let's say one by one, like, because she like, for example, discuss your bond. Yes, please, would you like to? Yes, we'll discuss your bond.
I think that children in the age of 8 and 9 use grammar, but they are not aware of the rule itself.
Yeah.
By drilling, they use grammar.
Yeah.
But they are not obliged to know the rule that we must use here and there some verb to be here on the flexible pronoun. They use it by drilling, by
Yes.
So
To
then
make
you don't
meaning.
tell them that this is grammar rule.
They understand implicitly as you said.
We are talking about 9 and 8 years.
Years.
Years. Not classes. Years. Yeah. Young kids.
Yes,
So-
yes. I think we're talking about 8 to 9 years old, and children. I think at this age, like somebody said there, some children actually like grammar because they quite like mathematics, and they can't quite like that kind of logic or illogic of grammar. But for many children, I think as soon as you start to talk about rules, children find it difficult and boring, and they don't want to do it, and you lose their interest. And then quite often you get this, they don't like English because they think English or any language is about learning grammar. And so I don't think it's the problem, as the teacher said there. Children have to use grammar to make meaning, otherwise they can't say anything in the language. But the way we teach it is very important to make sure that it's not boring and making them have a negative attitude, I think.
But most generally, Fiona, here, as you know, like our curriculum, I mean, the English for Palestine curriculum is mainly depending on explaining the grammatical rules through examples, I mean, through inductive way. But the thing is that grammar is not a skill. As you know, like we have 4 skills, like reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So it is much better and preferable if we teach grammar through these skills. I mean, not as an isolated part.
I think, you know, you said, you know, we've got 4 skills, 4 systems. And so how we integrate those, I think is, if we can integrate those, that's a great thing to do. But I think sometimes when we're under pressure and we've got a curriculum to teach, sometimes we can think, oh, the easy way is just to explain the rule and to talk about grammar. And I think sometimes that's very valuable, even with children. But I think that's when often they switch off and they get bored. So I think what the chapter that we've been reading has done is quite good at giving us different ways of dealing with grammar that isn't just talking about the rules. Yeah, okay. How about drilling? Do you like drilling?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, they agree on that. That's true.
Yeah. Especially this age.
Hi, I can't hear you now.
لا من عندها هي من عندها هي عم تحكي
I can't hear you very well.
هي عندها مشاكل.
Hello? Can you hear us right now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes, that's better.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So what about drilling?
They do agree on that point. As you know, like drilling is yeah. I mean, for me, I do agree on that because drilling is a part of, I mean, it's a skill of the lingual method. I mean, when we are teaching the students, it's preferable to use a drilling while they are like, we're teaching even lots of skills. So it's an effective way.
Okay, what about anybody else not like drilling?
Yeah, do you like drilling?
Sometimes when drilling turns into a mechanical thing, and the students sometimes they repeat, especially with young learners,
sometimes they get rules when they are after one structure by structure. So I think that teacher should take care of the drilling and try how to use it functionally and everywhere has a different
attractive way.
in attractive and
examples. Nice examples.
Drilling
Every day examples.
In a song.
In a story.
In a story.
Every day.
So why guys? Why drilling? I mean, this,
sure that is not mechanical.
in a context.
In an interesting context.
And also to give something called automaticity. I mean, to make students respond or talk or say that grammar rule in an automatic way. I mean, they do not think, what should we say? How could we form that rule?
Yeah, or maybe by action gets, for example, touch your head, touch your hand, touch
I
your
can
hands.
touch my blah, blah.
So you can teach them plural and singular by drilling.
Yeah, I think, you know, repetition is really, really important for children because they, as I said before, they find it difficult to make the rules. So how are you going to help them to learn the rules? Well, if they can't really do the rules in a mathematical way, then drilling is a really good way to get that repetition going. But I've seen in my life some very, very bad drilling and some very, very good drilling. So I think the idea that we're talking about is, you know, it's not, it's a bad thing, or it's a good thing, it's how it's used.
How it's used.
But you know, when you're learning, as you know, when you're learning a foreign language, you need to get your mouth around the words and the sounds, and the drilling gives the children, makes them feel secure, that it's not only them that has to speak, but they're speaking with the whole group. So I think drilling actually is coming back into fashion in quite a big way, particularly with young learners. And but it has to be done properly. And I heard some people there say in stories, in songs, in games, making it not just a kind of repeat, but using it effectively. I think it's a really good way to practice grammar. What about learning is a messy process?
Completely false. That's completely false. No.
Yeah, let's just listen. Yes, please. Could you just explain yourself?
It's organized,
Systematic.
Yeah, it is an in order thing to do. Yeah, you have, for example, to make sure that your students they are having the basics of the thing you are going to teach, and just you move step by step to the place you want them to go to. Just like the navigation system in our cars, you just, it takes you to the place step by step. Yeah,
I like that description.
We have to make sure that.
Well, we can, as teachers, we can do that. We can try and lead them step by step. But the question is actually about learning. So from the student's point of view, are they, as soon, you know, if you teach something, does that mean that students learn something?
If we are sure that they can personalize what did they learn, so we can know that they understand the grammar.
But understanding the grammar is different from being able to use the grammar.
They should be ready.
So is it a messy process, guys?
Is it a process?
I mean, learning it. For them, not for you.
No, I think it's
yes.
No. Even for not teaching, she can the students, they got the information step by step, and they can understand and produce something to herself or himself, so he can understand about I think third and fourth degree. Okay, if the students couldn't get the point back yesterday, it's a past. How to use the past form of the verb?
Okay, for today we're gonna exhibit, for example, some continuous.
Personalization. Okay. No. I mean, if you can use the grammar indirectly
they will use it. But she's talking about, is it, I mean, in their own mind, is it gonna be an organized system? Unorganized.
So if I don't understand,
Did you encounter that?
I can't. It doesn't work out on me. I am originally stupid, but I speak about my students. If I teach them in a systematic, organized way, because it's easier, and they learn in an organized way.
so they can call the information systematically.
Yes.
So it depends here, like we agreed that it depends on the way that the teacher conveys or delivers the lesson. So if it's a systematic way,
Remember
it should be
yourself
systematic.
when you were learning grammar.
Okay, it depends on the previous experiences.
There's some
These students.
Ah, yeah.
when you are
How
when
can
you
we
were learning.
Okay, for example, so how can we even talk about this? For example, to use the present continuous, they should know that now is a significant word. Yes. Without knowing that now is something, now is happening, what is now, how could use the present continuous?
But sometimes when you are
Okay.
about learning grammar is a messy process.
So let's listen to her point of view.
So it's not true.
So remember ourselves,
In the-
ourselves when we were learning English grammar.
Okay,
all
so
overlapping tenses.
what do you think?
Sometimes whether it is present continuous or past
Fiona,
continuous.
Yeah, let's listen to her opinion. Let's listen to her
Well,
opinion.
I'm going to tell you
Okay.
what it says, you know, what we read in the chapter. So Anna Maria Pinter, who's written a lot about young learners, uses exactly this phrase that learning grammar is a messy process. I think it's a messy process for everybody, not just for children. So it's not a matter of how you teach it. You might teach it in a very clear and systematic way. Just because you teach something doesn't mean to say children learn it. And children will learn things in different ways, according to somebody who was there saying about personalization, what they're interested in. Excuse me, and the most important thing, I think, is that if it's meaningful, we'll talk about that in a moment. If something is meaningful, children are more likely to learn it than if it's just a rule. Because if a rule doesn't have meaning, then why would a child, not an adult now, but a child learn something? All learning for children is about making things meaningful. And so, you know, they're not going to learn, for example, a or the necessarily that quickly, because you don't need those determiners to make meaning. So you know, you might teach it, and the teacher 2 years later might teach it, and then 2 years later a teacher will teach the same thing, but the children aren't necessarily learning it. It takes time. They go forwards, they go backwards, they go sidewards, and it's a very long process. And as Anna Maria has said, it, you know, it's messy.
To learn it, to master it.
Come out with stuff, you know, the right thing all the time. That's why. So I think so. What about the last one then, rote learning? So this is learning by heart, you know, memorizing. Children memorize?
Learning, you mean the last one?
Yes, rote learning.
But learning is not mainly about memorization. It's like about teaching things individually. I mean, they are not connected with each other as isolated items.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I think you need to make things meaningful, but you have, you know, memorization is a huge part of language learning. You have to memorize things, and I think again, this how we're thinking about memory in language learning is changing quite substantially, and people are realizing how important memory is. So the difference between your short-term and your long-term memory, and how you move things from the short term into the long term in psycholinguistics is becoming very important. And some people are saying one of the reasons that people struggle to learn language, some people, is because their short-term memory isn't developed enough. So they don't have enough space to work on the things, the language in their short-term memory, and then it doesn't move into long-term memory. So rote learning is one way we can help children to put things into their short-term memory so that it will move into their long-term memory. But it's quite controversial. But and I think a lot of these things have had a bad press, like drilling, rote learning, because we haven't done it very well. But if we do it well, they can be very effective. So we're going to move on because we're going to run out of time, and we're not going to do that. So let's look at this one. And I'm actually quite interested in this question because it is linked to what you're just been talking about. So what is the difference between functional value and grammatical need in grammar? Would you like to talk about that?
Yep. Let's listen to her. Yes, please, go ahead. Okay, discuss it.
Functional value.
Yeah.
Something related to life experience, manner, something like that.
Oh, attitude.
Attitude, yes.
Okay.
And grammar need. Grammar use. Just use
Grammatical
grammar.
need.
Structure, just a structure. Form. So the use and the form.
Yes, please, who's going to talk about it? Who's going to talk about it? Just like give ideas, guys. Okay.
Okay. So let's define what's functional value. What does that mean to you?
Why do you use the English?
Why? The function.
Yeah, why do we use that one? Why do we use it?
When?
Why and when?
Why and so functional why and when?
Yes.
Functional.
Situation.
Situation. Functional why, when, situation.
When you use it in our real lives.
Real life experience. Okay.
And for
So
grammatical need,
grammatical need
is the basics.
to make sure that the students understand the lesson and could use the rule correctly.
Needed for each lesson.
Exams,
For exams.
assessment for assessment.
Yeah, it could be.
The grammatical need more for assessment for giving marks.
Functional.
Grammatical need
Is the basic.
basic.
And you build your
The
functional
practice of it.
value.
So the grammatical need basics of it.
And you build your functional.
And the functional
on grammatical.
the practice of it.
But I think the opposite.
No. You know, you have to
So you gave like a really two good examples here. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So this is what I mean by, well, this is what Puchta in the chapter talks about, functional value and grammatical need. So here is a functional value. So he likes chocolate. So yeah, we all like chocolate. I like chocolate. So there's a functional value with the S. So if I say he liked chocolate, you understand the meaning. Is that true?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I don't need the S. This is a grammar bit. This is a bit of grammar here, the S. So that has functional value, but it's not got meaning. This kind, this one, he wants 2 chocolates. This S has grammatical need. Because if I don't have the S, maybe I only get 1 chocolate. So this kind of grammar is much easier to learn than this kind of grammar.
Yeah, because it's like basically based on the needs and desires of women.
Yes, because this grammar, this plural S, has has functional value. It means something. This S doesn't mean anything. It's just grammar.
Yes.
So when we're teaching, children will learn this kind of grammar much more quickly than this kind of grammar. Because if I say to a child, well, what does he want? If he says he wants chocolate, he's only going to get one chocolate. But he wants 2 chocolates.
Yeah. So it depends on their needs.
I think it's not the children's needs. It's about meaning.
Yeah.
If the grammar helps with meaning, it's much more easy to learn it. If the grammar doesn't help with meaning, it's much more difficult to learn it.
This is an example. I mean, it's just an example. It's just an example.
If I take the 2 out, I agree. I was just doing that on the hoof there. But if I take the 2 out,
exactly. She did it. You want the chocolate or you want the chocolate?
لو جت chocolate يا إما واحدة أو أكثر.
Yeah.
جت chocolates. إنه ما حاطته مبينة إنه.
لا هو الفرق بين want to like
This is.
لا بتحكي على
الاسم.
بتحكي على
بس أنا بالنسبة لي كمان
Yeah. They are different. They are different. Of course.
إلها functional value بالنسبة لي. I want. I
Always.
want.
Always. But what now? Something they like would like.
صريحتكم.
this is a better example. Sorry, I was just thinking off the top of my head there, but this is better. You know, he wants chocolate. He wants chocolates. If I take this S off, oh, damn. If I take this S off, I'm getting less chocolate. And a child usually wants more chocolate. So this has got functional value, and this is going to be easier to learn. Yeah?
Right.
Okay. So when we're teaching grammar, I think we have to think about that. Are we trying to teach this S, or are we trying to teach this S? This S is very, very late acquired. The third person S is for adults and children. They don't learn this till very advanced because it's only grammatical. It doesn't have function. So we maybe are wasting time trying to teach this. Don't worry. Who cares? But this is important.
Yeah. It's about the meaning, building the meaning. Semantics and syntax.
Yeah. Okay, what about this one? What is private speech? And why is it important? They talk about that in the chapter as well, the private speech.
Whispering.
What does
that mean, private speech? What do you mean by private speech?
Is it like a monologue?
In our thoughts.
Yeah, in our thoughts, it is.
What? Yeah.
But also with children in their first language as well, practice, sort of whisper to themselves, and they practice themselves what they want to say, what they're thinking. Often it is actually not just in the head, but in the very quiet whispering practice. And so with a second language, children can also be encouraged to do private speech. So rather than speaking out in front of the class in a drill or in talking to their partner, they can just practice on their own, trying to say the words, trying to make the meanings, trying to do private speech. This mimics what children do in real life. So this
Like
is,
mimic.
yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's really, really effective one. I mean, they do not feel shy to, for example, to make mistakes, or they like want to just to practice it, and anyone can do it.
Yes. So just to give that instruction in the class, okay, you've got 2 minutes just to practice this yourself, rather than always performing something. It mimics how children learn their first languages as well.
Yeah, I think it's good for both high achievers and low achievers. It is good for the low achievers that students try to try their language or their sentences, their answer they are going to do say, and it's good for the high achievers for their accuracy.
I
So
agree.
It's good for, yeah.
Another reason for that, this would reduce the affective factor. I mean, we give the students more space and being confident or even relaxed to speak and I mean to perform in front of their colleagues or a class.
Yeah, yeah.
Himself or
Yes,
yourself.
make sure that he pronounces or she pronounces well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even adults, when you are asked to do something or to say something, you try to prepare yourself. Okay, just give me half a minute. We need some time for private.
As you're doing here.
Yeah. We are a human being.
Yeah, but I don't think we do this very much in class. You know, we try to control everybody. So, you know,
sometimes when someone
pulling
asks us
back and giving a bit of space
as a private speech, just to prepare yourself. Yes, to give yourself a chance to recall the data
and then
produce that.
And also, this is good for short-term memory. So it's good there. Okay, let's move on then. Where are we now? Okay, this is the last thing we're going to do. This is in the chapter. I don't know if you saw this. So Puchta talks about, what does he call it now? I can't remember what he calls it. But this is a kind of very simple activity that Puchta introduces, which is practices all those things we've spoken about: drilling, rote learning, private speech, function, but also trying to put in some grammatical value as well. So what he says is very simple little dictation exercises like this. So I'm going to go back. Have you got have you got paper and pen?
Yes,
yeah, we do all have that.
Okay, so I'm going to dictate. So you listen and write down. Okay? Ready?
Teachers.
Yeah, teachers never have a pen.
You're not a cheat, guys.
Okay, you ready? Right, here we go. So, she likes chocolate. She likes music. She likes good movies. But she doesn't like two things: unkind people and lies. Okay, I'll do it again more quickly. She likes chocolate. She likes music. She likes good movies, but she doesn't like two things: unkind people and lies. Okay, so just check together to see if you've got the same.
We have cheated.
Okay.
Come on. Yeah, we're done.
So does one person want to tell me the poem? One person?
Yes, please. Who's gonna say it? Who's gonna say
it? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
She likes chocolate. She likes music. She likes good movies, but she doesn't like two things: unkind people and lies.
Way. Okay, excellent. Okay. Okay, so here it is. All right. Now, this has got lots of grammar. So we've got the third person, and this is difficult to learn. So we've got it 3 times. Okay? It's also got the opposite. That she likes, she doesn't like. So we've got the grammar of positive and negative. We've got the plural S. And we've got contrast. Oh, she likes, she doesn't like, and but as the conjunction. So in this little text, there's lots and lots and lots of grammar. But the grammar, we're not telling you what the grammar is. The grammar is in the poem. Okay. So can you turn your paper over so you can't see? Okay. Right then, here we go. Everybody say together. Okay.
Chocolate.
She likes music.
She likes good movies.
But
But she doesn't like
unkind people and lies.
Okay, one more time. She
likes chocolate. She likes music. She likes good movies, but she doesn't like two things: unkind people and lies.
Okay, excellent. Okay, now can you write your own poem?
about she or
About it can be about your best friend or your mother or your partner or your child. Choose one person and write the poem about them.
She likes. What do you like? What do you like?
Nothing. If you've finished, then do some private speech. Try practicing it to yourself.
لا two things. انا كتبت من الثينكس ما كتبت عن بنتي.
Many things.
She doesn't like many things. She doesn't like housework.
Cooking, cleaning.
Like digging up the holes. She doesn't like tidying up her room.
So if you finish, just practice to yourself, do your private speech. Say it out loud very quietly. She likes this, she doesn't. Okay, okay. Now read your poem to your partner.
حكينا احنا والله خلصنا احنا صابحين زمان
Wow.
doesn't like what?
Flying peas and carrots.
What about you?
Yes. Who does, in fact? Who does?
She likes reading. She likes meeting people. She doesn't like eating, cheating family and friends. Like in the same line.
She likes sushi. She likes
This is my second, yes.
She likes sushi. She likes classical music. She likes action films, but she doesn't like two things: fake friends and hysterical laughs.
Very nice. Anybody at one more person?
One person, yes, please.
Yes. Okay, I'm talking about my daughter Tamara. She likes music. She likes Brad Pitt so much. She likes pizza, but she doesn't like many things: housework, lentil soup, and traditional food.
Very good.
Yes.
One more?
One
Yes.
more.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about my daughter.
This is we make the space for her. We're gonna like have you. Okay.
She plays football, she plays volleyball, she plays basketball, but she doesn't play two things: table tennis and music.
So like this is for sports. Yes, please, your turn.
Okay. I want to talk about my daughter. My daughter likes pizza, she likes burger, she likes fried chicken, but she doesn't like two things: boiled eggs and milk.
I have a funny one.
The last one.
She likes monkeys, she likes Smurfs, she likes books, but she doesn't like two things: idiots and managers.
Okay. Now, this is very interesting because one of you put a different verb here and put the word plays.
Yes.
This is the kind of play you can do with this kind of activity. It's very, very simple, but it allows you to differentiate. So for the learners who aren't very strong, you can help them. You can put in for example, leave in the verb. So the weaker students get a strong, a poem with more words in it. And the very strong students can do what the teacher did there, is to have their own verbs and make the poem longer. So if with something very small and simple like this, you can do lots of grammar work, lots of personalization, and lots of differentiation as well, to ensure that the strong students are stretched and the weak students are supported.
So to meet the individual differences inside the class.
Yeah, because, you know, often it's very difficult to introduce activities that stretch students or support students. But a little activity like this is it's very easy to do that. And all the students can then think that they've achieved something.
From 8 to 9 years old.
Okay, So that's our time is up, I'm afraid. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. You'll find all of the things we spoke about today are from the chapter. So if you want to go back and read about it again, then you have the chapter.
Thank you, Fiona, for having us. And it's like really a pleasure to have you with us discussing this chapter. And this was like really fruitful and very beneficial and useful discussion today. And we hope like we may meeting you again, inshallah. And we're gonna like send this presentation to Ms. Routledge so that we can like make use of these slides and PowerPoints.
Yes, I've recorded it, so I'll find a way to send it to you. I'll probably have to talk to Nick about that first, but he'll get it to you.
Waiting for more sessions until Allah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Lovely to meet you all. Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Yes.